felt a bit nerve-wracking at first, and I thought I wouldn't be able to produce anything that would be suitable, but the more we met up, we're all doing different things, but all doing it together. It was great. It was like a little community group, all, you know, advising each other and adding bits to each other's.
It was very organic. The process happened very organically and it changed over time. But I'm pleased with what I created in the end. And I think it was so much fun just to feel like you kind of were almost adding to the history, if that makes sense, just in some little small way. Just to have it in the museum as well is quite a big deal, you know, it's really good.
It was a really nice chance to come to the museum and connect with the community, with the art studio, but also it's made me feel more connected to the Roman wall and the history of that.
As I said, I've been sort of on many a school trip, but it's quite different sort of looking at it with sort of adult eyes rather than sort of through children's eyes.
I'm just delighted that Tyneside Archives and Museums have been able to be part of this project, you know, facilitating it. It's a really important year for Hadrian's Wall 1900, so you know, lots of celebrations going on. But it isn't. Yes, there's the big kind of fireworks type celebrations and big events, but it's those kind of meaningful experiences for individuals in the ways that they can connect with the ancient history and making it relevant to today, that's so important. And those, I'm sure that those experiences will resonate far beyond this year in Hadrian's Wall 1900.
Bringing people together as a community is the absolute soul of what we do. Art is a fantastic way for people to communicate, to build connections and relationships that they might have not otherwise had. And by bringing people together as a community, those ideas feed off each other. There's this kind of old image of artists kind of working alone, and then you get one voice. But when you bring a community together, you find that there's a much richer, interconnected work that comes out of it.
What I did was I threw a pot using clay on a wheel, and then I decorated it using some modern images to reflect the old and the new. It's actually given me a great interest. I found out about the thing about Hadrian and his lover, and how it was just accepted that was the norm then, whereas now, although we're a more accepting society, it actually seems that we're not as accepting. We want to put people in a box and keep them there. We don't want to let them express themselves. So I'm actually interested and excited to take this a bit further and go down and have a bit more of a research about that.
And it has made me think differently, yeah, I would say so, because it was like, you know, it had all different, from people from all over the world, different countries and that, and well, we've got that now, haven't we? And so really there were perhaps less bias in them days, whereas you think we keep saying we're getting better at being less biased or prejudiced, or but really when we look back to how they were, it wasn't even an issue. So that was quite interesting. It brings up quite a few things like that.
I really love Roman pottery, and I love the Roman kind of like history anyway. So I wanted to look further into it. So I kind of immersed myself in the artifacts, and I, you know, did my own bits of digging. And I wanted to make my piece kind of like very hands-on and tactile. And it was really inspired by kind of like something that came out of the ground, like an archaeological kind of piece, as if it had just been dug up.
And I made two textile pieces, one called Entwined and the other called Made in Wallsend. I think that the piece will show sort of the longevity of the items, that sort of they're still recognisable as things sort of after all those years, and sort of comparing it with things now that are quite disposable, but also about other things that Wallsend, the history of Wallsend has to offer, such as the shipyards and the coal mining history.
I produced the piece of work called Shira v Caesar, which is basically a Roman soldier wearing a Newcastle United shirt on. It opened my eyes back again, and it helped inspire me when I saw all the Romans looking so proudly with their uniforms on, and I thought, well, people put the Newcastle United shirt on are very proud. So I want to get over the Geordie sense of humour, a little bit cheeky but funny.
And doing this art project, different people have been in the group have been doing different things, and it's made me interested. So like I look up about Hadrian and find out about him, and I'm like, ooh. To my husband, who's more of a history buff than me, did you know? And then it sparked conversation off in the house. So it's just been dead interesting, really.
Within the communities team, we are really focused on trying to remove any barriers for communities to access our venues and our programmes. So working with a local organisation who's already engaging successfully with participants just helps reassure those individuals that this is a safe space, that these are safe staff to come along to the actual workshops and activities that we have on offer. And that hopefully will translate to those individuals accessing our venues independently outside of the sessions, and remembering that the collections and the objects and what we have within Tyneside Archives and Museums belong to the local community for the local community.
It was really great just to be a part of something that lots of other people were doing as well. We all kind of bounced ideas off each other and enjoyed just being inspired by each other's work as well. And we all had something different to offer, or something different to create or bring out, and we were inspired by different things. And I think the pieces all were so different. It was just great to watch everybody's process, and also how just working together on it was really enjoyable, just to kind of feel like we were achieving something and we had a purpose, and it was going to be shown as a group. And I loved coming in here as well, just to be involved and immersed in all of the Roman history. It was fun.
I just went along for the art, to be fair, and I didn't know whether I would follow it up, but then I came to the meeting here, and it was so interesting. The guy, Dan, I think they call him, and he gave us a talk, but it was so good. I was really interested, and so that had sparked the interest. And then we went back and did some drawings from what we've spoken about, and I drew my old street that I lived in till I was 6, as it was about community, and it just brought back some really happy memories, how everybody in the street used to go to the top of the street for the bonfire, and different people bought the pies and the parking, and it seemed like that's what they did, the Romans, the ones that had families, they seemed to share.
People in the past weren't so different. They probably loved people and they were worried about the families. They probably wanted to better themselves, and they were probably anxious about the future. And really, that sums up today. People are very anxious about the cost of living, and people are anxious about the future. But if you work hard with good people, then that's the foundation of the future, really.